we'll be Zoom wizards. Okay, so we should be up there. Got those. So now you can see the dollar bills, I hope. Okay, so I do tend to speak a little bit fast, so I apologize in advance. If I'm going too fast, throw a hand up or something like that, or they will be submitting, posting the recording afterwards as well, and we can go from there. So this class is really on a lot of the photos I'm going to be showing are from claims that I've adjusted personally, or ones that are provided by the corporate office for great examples of why flooring is so important when it comes to claims. And Art pointed it out earlier with those high deductibles, and you really do have to be careful because some policies are nasty. I haven't seen a percentage deductible as high as 5% on the general dwelling claims. It's very common, at least in New York, for hurricane deductibles to be somewhere around 3, 4, 5%, and it really knocks you out. A hurricane could, although we haven't had really any official formal declared hurricanes hit New York, even what we call Hurricane Sandy wasn't declared a hurricane in New York. Down south it was, but up here it wasn't. So it's touch and go because different policies are different, and some policy might call a category 1 a hurricane, and some would be cat 2 or cat 3 or cat 4, and each state and each carrier is a little bit different, and it's tricky, and that's why it's important for us to provide that service of the policy coverage review. So we know, at least we can guide our customer, our customers, our clients. They have no idea most of the time of even if what their deductible is in general, but if they've got like a funky one like that, a percentage, and they're going, wait, what do you mean? The first $20,000 isn't mine, or the first $5,000 isn't mine? Sometimes, even a $5,000 deductible is very high on most claims. It's an important factor, especially as an adjuster coming in. So, oh, you've got a covered loss, and you go, oh, $5,000 deductible. Yeah, well, all of a sudden your $10,000 claim is now down at $5,000. We've got to make some money too, and then the homeowner is going to walk away with with very little money in their pocket. They may not be able to do the repairs, and we've got an unhappy customer. So if we make them aware in the beginning so that they know what they're looking at, and someday you give them the policy coverage review today, and they come back to you in 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, when they have a loss, they go, oh, well, thanks. You suggested I drop my deductible down to $1,000 or $500. Now it's going to pay off. So a customer for life is what we're really looking for. So let's get down to it. So the money is in the flooring. That's actually a coin phrase by Bill Underkoffler that he talks about during the adjuster training classes done in corporate. And it's true, because any claim that you can get flooring of any sort, a carpet, tiling, wood, laminate, will take your general stain on the ceiling that's got a little bit of water dripping down to the floor below, and take your $5,000 claim. It could turn into a 15 or 20 or 25 or 30, depends on how big it is and what that material is. So this class is really targeting with the idea of I'm going to show you some different flooring materials to help you become accustomed to what you're looking at. Not every wood floor is a wood floor. Not every wood floor is the same, and they're not all created equal. Even wood floors come in lots of different shapes and sizes, and I have some pretty good examples, and you'll see what we're talking about on there. So our first slide here, I'm going to minimize myself so if I can get out of the way. These are photos that I took in local Home Depot or Lowe's, I don't remember which one, and they're showing several different materials. And it's our job as the claims rep, if you're going to the person's home, or be it virtual or in person, to learn some different types of flooring. Are you able to see my mouse where I'm hovering it? I don't know how to do that.
Yes, we can, Dan.
You can see the mouse.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're circling the ones on the left, those two are the same material, and that is that's an engineered pre-finished hardwood floor. So that's pre-finished, meaning you buy it from the store. It comes in a box. It's got a shine on top. The planks lock together. When the contractor installs them, they pop them in. There's no refinishing required. They don't have to sand it. They don't have to put polyurethane. There's no chemical smells. You pop them in. You nail them down. The floor is done. It's shiny. You Swiffer it, whatever it is you've got to do, and it's done. That's actually an expensive floor for us to replace in case of a loss because they are easily damaged with water, not as easily damaged as other materials, but because of the way that it's designed with that pre-finished surface, it cannot be refinished. So if that floor gets damaged, anywhere those planks continue, it could be, let's say you have your dining room, but the same planks go under the door, perpendicular to the door into the bedrooms. Those, you may get the flooring in the bedrooms too, because the flooring is all continuation, and oftentimes it is. The center one and the one on the upper right here and here, those are called laminate floors. They're made to look like wood. They are not. Actually, the one in the center, I believe, is called vinyl plank, or luxury vinyl plank. So it looks like wood. It looks like laminate, but it's actually similar to laminate, but it's actually all vinyl. So it's some type of composite material that's more durable. And one of the brands is called Life Proof, I think it's called Life Proof. And they say it's a waterproof material. It's not. It's nice that they like to tell us that. But at the end of the day, is if we come to some type of loss on something like that, we can get the homeowners paid for, again, same deal on that, whereas wherever that floor is continuing, you're going to end up with a fairly large loss, being that if the water penetrates underneath a vinyl plank floor, so let's say it's waterproof, but the sides are not waterproof. So, and the flooring runs till the end of the wall. So if the water gets underneath, it's there, it's trapped, and now it can't get out. The only way to dry it out without, obviously the goal is you don't want to grow mold or any type of, first it'll start to smell and you don't want that in your house, is it stays locked under there. So it's waterproof, great, but now you can't get the water out either. So the whole floor has to come out. Same deal as anywhere that continues. The one on the upper right is a laminate floor. So it looks nice when it's new. It interlocks, but it's made out of like a fiber, like wood fibers, called like medium density fiberboard. So when that gets wet, it just swells. It's not a very expensive material, but it looks nice when it's new, but it's very easily damaged. And some of the future slides, you'll see what I'm talking about, where that becomes a major, really, it does become a major issue in terms of getting that replaced, because it's so easily damaged. Even mopping the floor can damage that type of flooring. You'll see some examples, and one of the things we say amongst ourselves, amongst the adjusters, and you can say to the homeowner, if you can crack a joke and they can take it, but to be careful, is homeowners insurance covers the homeowner's own stupidity. So if they're going to get insulted, don't say it. But the reality is if your kids do something dumb in the house, they're playing baby shark in the bathtub and they're dumping water over the sides, and there's water pouring. It happens. I just had a very large loss with something like that, and the carrier kind of gave me the side eye when I was like, yeah, but the teenager was taking a teenage shower, which was like 45 minutes, and the spout was pointing out and flooded the bathroom. We don't, not flooded, but there's water pouring all over the house. He's going, how is that possible? And I was like, well, when was the last time you had a teenager? And he goes, it's been a long time. I was like, right, that's what teenagers do. They get 45-minute showers. And if the shower is pointing outside the door, they're not looking, and there you go, you've got a water loss. So homeowners' own stupidity is covered by insurance, unless they do it on purpose. But our job is to make sure that it's not on record that it was on purpose, because I'm sure it wasn't. If they did, take the kid out and do what you got to do. The bottom right corner is, let's call it traditional hardwood flooring, which comes, it's unfinished on the surface. It's finished once it comes to the home. They install it, they're nailed down. The contractor will sand it, then they'll put a coat of one or multiple coats of polyurethane to give it like that basketball court floor shine to it. Should that get damaged, and we'll see some examples, that floor can be refinished. They can sand it again, they can refinish it. It's still something that would be covered. It depends on how bad the damage is, which will determine whether you can reuse the planks or they can just be refinished. Here is an up-close image of swollen laminate seam. This, I actually had a fight. This is a photo that I took. I had a fight with the adjuster because he said that this was a hardwood floor. So obviously he didn't know his building materials, which is why I'm teaching you building materials, because even in the field, sometimes adjusters make mistakes. We're from Metro, so we're great. So we have excellent training. We try not to make mistakes, but it's real life. Sometimes people do make mistakes, and we can make jokes about it. Reality is, what happens with laminate flooring is it will, wherever the seams meet, it exposes and the water seeps in there. That's where that fibrous wood material can start. It absorbs water like a sponge. It will swell on the laminate floor, and it will never go down. So just proving, all you've got to do to prove a claim like this is show where that water penetrated, where the seam is split, and the whole floor should get covered.
Excuse me, Dan.
Go for it.
You're telling me that if I put my Christmas tree in the house and I accidentally start filling it up and I put too much water in there, and after I move the tree out, I see something like that on my laminate floor, that's a claim?
Homeowners on stupidity. Sorry.
Wow. Thank you for that information.
You can't do it year after year, but if you did it once and you go, oh shoot, I ruined my floor, it happens. There's actually a slide, and I can't predict it, I'm not changing. There is a slide coming up that says Christmas tree loss. It's common in this time of year. It could happen to any type of flooring, almost any type of flooring. But yeah, so the first time it happens, it's a covered loss. If you do it year after year, your insurance company is not going to pay for it, especially if you don't change the floor. We learn from our mistakes, you know, and it's part of the education. We educate ourselves and each other on the same thing as consumers. This is not a great picture. I didn't take it, but you can see what the example they're showing is. Number one, you see in the center here is you can see they're like watermarks, but more importantly, it's hard to note, but there are these little squares. So the adjuster that took these photos used like little post-it stickers, and they marked the outline of where the water was to assist in writing up the claim and assist and prove to the insurance carrier where the damage was. There's actually more damage than that I see. But this is a laminate floor. You don't need that much to get the whole floor covered. When I say covered, I mean purchased. The carrier is going to be paying for the floor. It hasn't covered, they're paying for the covered loss. This is also not a photo that I took, which is probably why it's fuzzy. And you can see the same thing. It's very hard because it's a glare. But you can see on each of the seams, like especially where that glare is, that there's like a little bump. And on the laminate floor, it only takes a little bit of water to cause very severe damage. The carriers, for the most part, from my experience, they don't fight you. And when we walk into a loss and we're looking at laminate floor, we kind of go like, yeah, we're getting that replaced. So they don't fight. They fight for other things, but I haven't had any experience with any carriers really fighting you on the laminate floor when it looks like that. So if you walk into a house, for whatever the reason, it could be that they're calling you for an unrelated loss to what the floor is, and you look at the floor and go, wait a second, what happened over here? It'll show, number one, that you know what you're talking about, but number two is that the money is in the floor. It's like they may have something else going on. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe this is covered, maybe that's not, a little drywall leak on the, a little bit of rain came in or something like that. But all of a sudden you're looking at the floors, you're going like, I got you more on the floor. Hang on a second, I got more things. So minor swell, which is here you can see that's similar to the last photo. This is the again a laminate floor where the pieces meet each other, and that's where the water is going to get in, and it swells. Once it's up and it's buckled like that, it does not go back down. Other floors can be can look similar and have severe swelling on them also, even on a hardwood floor, which is a much more durable material. But if it gets hit with enough water, those I don't know if you've ever seen it or if anybody's seen that, but hardwood planks, if they get wet enough, they'll just bust kind of like they pop apart because they're in so much tension from the nails. But when it gets saturated with water, think of a sponge. The sponge will swell up, but it can't go anywhere past it, so it just drips out. But with the wood flooring, it swells and swells and swells, and once it gets to its breaking point, they'll just pop up. I'll try and get it for the next time I give the class and see if I can get a photo of a loss where you just see the hardwood planks and they're flying all over the place. Obviously, insurance company can't argue that it's damaged because it is, but we're not always looking for the obvious stuff. We're trained to know the funky stuff or how to get claims paid when it's not so obvious. Here's just again another example of a laminate floor swollen. I can probably pull one of these out for the next time, but this is it looks in certain areas it looks perfectly fine. This could be a cup of water. It does not take a lot of water. And that's the next one. It does not take a lot of water to damage laminate floor. So it's very common these days if you walk into Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace, whichever hardware store you want, or big box store, small, wherever it is, they're still selling a lot of laminate floors. It's a cheaper material. It looks nice. but it's damaged so easily. I personally would never put it in, even if I was trying to save money. I would save money someplace else. Not on that. That's not the way to go. If you have it already, I apologize. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just telling you, if you happen to have it and you have a water loss, call your local adjuster. After something happens, we'll get you a new floor. This is not a great picture, but this is showing a bamboo floor. So bamboo floors have been growing in popularity. They are they look nice. They cannot be refinished, and they can't be repaired. So under the same pretenses we were speaking before with laminate, so this is a more durable material. It's a harder material. It won't damage as easily, but if enough water hits a bamboo floor, you'll have the same thing. You'll get the edges will swell. They may start to cup, and you'll see examples of cupping. And those flooring like that will get replaced as well as part of the loss. Whoever mentioned the Christmas tree loss, here's your slide. Typical water damage in a top nail flooring Christmas tree. We could pretend that there was a Christmas tree here, even though there wasn't, but it's a great example of what it was because of the season. So you could imagine if you've got your tree right here against the wall or wherever it is, even with it's got its catch basin or whatever it is, it can leak out. You could overwater it. It could crack. The dog kicked it. The kids kicked it. They were playing football in the living room. Somebody got drunk. They fell into it. Who knows what the story is? You come up with any version you want. And in this business, we hear lots and lots of crazy stories. That's what makes it fun, especially at the convention, the annual meeting. You get to hear some of the crazy adjuster stories about how things happen. I share one of my other classes. If you were in my other class, you saw one about a fire. How the lady lit a fire. She lit her own house on fire from the outside. Crazy stuff happens, but the adjusters joke about it. At the end of the day, it's a covered loss, and we get it. We get those covered. So this is actually showing you two things. Number one is you're showing the damage on the water. The floor is also filthy, but pretend you don't see that. More important is you can see the water stains. This is not a laminate floor. This is a solid. This is a solid pre-finished floor. So it is real wood. It's like the photo that I showed in the opening screen, where it comes from the factory. It's got a shine on it. They nail them down and it's done, but you can't refinish it. So the only way to remediate it is you've got to pull the whole floor. What you see in the center, if you're not familiar, is a moisture meter. I put the moisture meter on the floor to show how wet it was. Obviously, 85% is almost saturated. So the water in that area, and we build as part of the proving process, is you can show how wet it is and which areas. So this obviously where it looks like it's wet, it is wet. If I move the moisture meter over 2 or 3 feet, it might show 20% moisture. But that proves to me that in the center that it's not all 20%, is that some areas are 20 and some areas are 85 or 100. Proves to the adjuster and this photo would be in my report, shows the insurance company what's going on. Okay, well, there's water. It looks wet. How do I know it just happened? Well, here's your moisture meter reading. It's wet. Okay, they can't argue that point. Our job is, the proof is in the pudding. So especially with water losses, it's important for us to be there as close to when it happened as possible. So if this client were to call me 6 months later and I put my moisture meter down there on that spot, the spot will still be there because it'll be stained. It's permanently stained. It's not wet anymore. It's hard. And I think that I'm going to go with Debbie, because I don't know how to pronounce your last name, and I botched it the last time. You mentioned the introduction, statute of limitations, and how long you have to notify carriers in different states or different. In general, on a claim, I say general, I don't know North Carolina. In general, the rule is 1 year from the date of loss. So if this happens today, I have a year to notify the insurance company. I wouldn't wait that long. And it does get very suspicious if a homeowner waits. We, the adjusters, have to come up with a really good excuse why the homeowner didn't notify. We were able to use the excuse of COVID. Someone in the sick house had COVID. Someone was nervous about COVID. Nobody was allowed in. Again, during lockdowns, stuff was happening in people's homes, but we couldn't notify carriers because people weren't going in. Even the homeowner, again, we've used the excuse of the homeowner is very nervous about COVID, or there's a spike or whatever it is, and they were getting nervous about it. So they make exceptions. But again, when it comes to a water loss, the sooner you notify your adjuster, your claims rep, your adjuster, write up the claim and get the carrier notified, the sooner the better, because they're going to come to inspect, and it's always easier to get a claim paid without them, raising eyebrows and going, "Oh, what's going on? What's going Okay, so let's go. Next one we've got. This is an example of cupping. This is a very cheap tool that I have in my tool bag. Mostly adjusters carry them. It's a worthwhile tool for you to have as well. It is an aluminum ruler. It doesn't have to be aluminum, but I know that it's a straight edge. It won't crack on me like a plastic one will, or wood ones will chip. Wood can also be warped. I think it was like $2.50 on Amazon or something like that. And what you can see is the ripples underneath the ruler being a straight edge, and I put it right across the different planks. This is a hardwood. This is a genuine hardwood floor. It was near a sink, and the drain leaked, and the water spilled out on the floor. And you can see the ripples under every plank. If you can see my mouse, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here. Kayla, I see you there. Hang on one second. The way to prove the cupping is you put with a flashlight and the straight edge. You can change the angle sometimes to make it a little bit more exaggerated, but it's there. It's proof positive, that I went to the insurance company and said, this floor, once it's cupped like this bad, you actually have to pull some of the planks out, and they can weave planks into each other to make it look nice, and then they refinish the whole floor. So wherever that hardwood floor is continued, this is in a kitchen, so that the kitchen went to the living room, went to the dining room, so the entire first floor of that home had to be sand stained and refinished because of the area over here. And again, it's hard for the carriers to argue that because it's obvious. Go ahead, Kayla, go ahead.
I was wondering what you said it was called that you got from the hardware store.
It's actually just it's an aluminum ruler. It's just a straight. Okay. The other side has a ruler. 1 through 12. It's a 12-inch ruler.
And you can just use those.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You can use other things if you don't have it. You can get creative with something else. I've seen people use pencils, but they're short and it's not great. But something like this, it's 1 foot. It's spanned 4 or 5 planks. It shows easy.
Would a level work? Like a level?
Yeah, try it out. I learned from my experience. I bought a couple on Amazon when I first started out. There was one that was actually like a triangle shaped, which I thought was a great idea, because it stayed upright. It didn't move. Problem is that it had a shadow underneath, so it didn't work all that great for me. So I ended up Amazon returning it. I ended up with this one. I was like, I'm almost certain it was less than $3. And it works great. I throw it in my bag and I toss my bag around, and it doesn't crack, it doesn't bend. And if it breaks, if I bend it, for $2.50, I'll buy another one. I'm not worried about it. But so far it's been in, I've had it for about a year, and so far so good.
Thank you.
Here's actually, there you go. This is the same floor from a different angle. And there you can see that it actually looks like a plain old regular ruler. You can probably even see the model number that I bought on Amazon. Johnson J112. From made in Mequon, Wisconsin. Doesn't matter where it's made, but again, it's a straight ruler. But you can see how severely the floor on this one is buckled. It's going from the 10-inch mark down to the 3-inch mark. You've got like a big bow. On a floor that's that severely warped, I would not even suggest it's a straightforward refinish. Something like that would have to be. You'd have to remove some planks to get that one repaired. However many feet it is. This is a little bit hard to see what this one is, but this is a veneered floor, so it's none of the above. It's a veneer. So a veneer is something that's stuck on top of something else. So if you have let's say plywood underneath, and then they're sticking some type of, let's say, very thin wood material on top of it, some floors are finished like that. Something like that obviously can't be repaired because of the warping you see in the photo there. Can't be repaired. Here you've got a cross section of an engineered wood floor, and you can see that the bottom part looks like plywood because it is. The top part is a thin, it's like a veneer, which is just a very thin strip in long pieces. It's glued together like a sandwich. Once the top is damaged, there isn't much you can do. You can't sand that floor down. It is what it is, and I'll show you the next photo if I remember right. This is a real life one as opposed to that other one there, or another real life one. The left one on the left is the same image from the first one. That's my Home Depot picture where you can see the cross section. The bigger one in the background with the arrow is actually at a loss that I adjusted. I won the entire floor on that. because the next photo will show you why. There you go. They had a life fixture, they had a roof leak. It was dripping into the life fixture dripped onto the floor right below, and this is exactly where the pen tip was, and this is actually what won the claim, was this photo with the 2 arrows showing where the part under my fingers there. It's a great image. You can see not much. You can see where the 2 planks met, that they had swollen a little bit, and the one where the pen tip is, it left a gap. So when the wood got wet, it swelled up. So it swelled up and like it got fat, and then when as it dried out, it shrank. It shrank back down, and it was actually a little bit narrower than the rest of the planks on that whole floor were. So the adjuster was trying to argue with me, and he said, well, all of the planks look like that. And I showed him this picture, zoomed in with the pen tip. So look, right here, there's a gap. That gap, it's wider on this plank than it is on the other half of the plank and the plank next to it. Won the argument and got the floor. So it's those small details, the attention to detail, which is what I'm trying to relay to you, that we're taught, and that knowledge is very big. And sometimes we prove to the homeowners, and their eyeballs bug out, like, how did you get that kind of money on this loss? How did you know? Learning our materials is the most important thing. We learn what the materials are and how they get repaired with insurance claims, and it can turn a small claim into a very large one sometimes. What is that there? Oh, thank you for posting that, Michael, on the ruler. I'm not sure it's the same one, but any aluminum ruler is fine. Okay, so here's your solid wood flooring. So solid wood flooring is not the same as the other ones that we were talking about. So this is not a veneer, and it's also not engineered hardwood flooring. It is a pre-finished solid floor. So you can see in the cross section of the photo on the left, it looks like if you took a slab of wood, which it is. You can see on the right photos also, you can see the grains of the wood that you can see going from the bottom to the top to the surface, and it's in the factory. They refinish, and this is a factory finished floor. So, and the top actually looks like you paint. If you were holding, I have it here. You can take these samples from Home Depot, by the way. If you ever get bored, you can take lots of samples. I can't see my own camera, so I don't know if you can see that on the cross section. It actually, when I'm looking at it, I can see on the top section, which is this part here that I'm hovering with the mouse, it actually looks like it's painted, which it kind of is. It's refinished. The surface is refinished in the factory. So when they send it out into the stores, it looks shiny. They put into the floor, they click together. It's called tongue and groove, and you'll see on one of the future slides that they click together. They're nailed in place. You can't refinish this floor, although it's arguable whether you could or not. But again, by the book, when it comes to an insurance claim, and by the book, is a floor like this cannot be refinished. This is the way. This is a laminate. It's just showing how laminate flooring is installed. Laminate and vinyl plank floorings are installed, and this is why the whole floor has to get replaced. If you've got damage or swelling on the losses, they click into each other. So if you've got one against the walls, let's say this one right here, the first one of this room was installed, and that plank is damaged. You can't take one plank out, because if you take the first plank out, the one next to it's going to crack, and they're so thin that if you were to try, you could try and pull one out, it'll crack the next one. You try to take the next one, it'll crack the next one. It keeps going, I say ad infinitum, but it's not really forever. It's up to that room or that area. So the reason why carriers are obligated to pay for the continuation of the flooring is because you really can't take one out. If you have a very talented contractor, or if you look on YouTube, you can find some contractors to do it that can cut it and pop it in. It's not going to be the same, and it's not going to have the same durability. It's not really what's called pre-loss condition, and that's why they're obligated to pay for them. This shows you what the terminology I said was tongue and groove is, and the next slide actually shows it even better in a real life example. But this is what it looks like. The tongue is the part that sticks out, the groove is the slot, and one pops into the other, and that's they click down to they lock into each other, so that if you're walking on the floor, it's not going to shift around because they're all locked into each other. This is actually a laminate floor. You can see what I was talking about earlier is they lock together. You can't get one out. You can see how thin the edges are. If you try to take them out, they're gonna crack. And the floor will never be the same, which is why they have to replace the whole thing. This material is like that fibrous material on the, if you see the cross sections of fibrous material, it really is like a sponge. Water gets in there, it swells up, and it's done. Something important to note is on laminate floors, and many floors, where the rooms under doorways, if they transition from, let's say, from a laminate floor to tile bathroom floor, or from laminate to hardwood, or a laminate to a staircase, or whatever, they have these a strip. It looks a little bit different. It's made of a different material. They are very expensive. So even, let's say, a laminate floor, which is, I'm going to make a number. Let's say it costs $1 a square foot for a laminate floor. But in order to transition, so it's not, you don't have an exposed surface, they're going to have to put in these transition strips, and transition strip could cost you up to, this one says $60. They don't all cost that much, but even on a cheaper floor, you've got these transition strips, which are required for the installation, and those have to come out too, because hey, they're made out of thin plastic, and the thin plastic on that, just that edge there, right, this edge here, it has a nail hole or it's screwed down to the floor. You can't even reuse the transition strips. So that's $60. Each doorway will have one. So it all adds up into a larger loss. This is an example showing that the planks are not even always the same. They could be different widths. Again, all the more reason why a floor that's damaged like this is you can't take out 1 or 2 planks. You've got to take them all out. This actually looks similar to that image we talked about before of the veneer. But this is probably a higher end floor. This is like, say, in an old historical home, dating back to when materials were, people had value to them, and people really did hard craft work. And this type of flooring is called hand scraped. And you can't take, because it's done really, it is done by hand. It's sand and buff or whatever it is. You can't take a drum sander over it and just sand the floor down. What's important, why that's important to know, is if you can identify it as a hand scraped floor, and it's not all that common. But it becomes more expensive to replace that because it's done, all the labor is done by hand. So it costs more to rebuild a floor like that. So something to bear in mind in terms of the size of the loss and what we're looking for. So the software we use, adjusters, almost all insurance companies except for a couple are called, the software is called Xactimate. Not so important for claims reps to know, but as adjusters, we're all using that. We all have to learn how to use it. And the different line items is how we build the insurance estimates. It's important to know how thick is the floor, what kind of material is the floor made out of, how wide are the planks. If we know how wide the planks are, will sometimes tell us what the material is. How is it installed? Are there any fancy, high-tech underlayments? Is it a hand scrape finish like we showed in the last slide? And these are all important things for us to know, so we can address them when the time comes. Again, in Xactimate, each type of flooring has its own category. So engineered wood flooring, which I showed you earlier, is again refinished in the surface. It's like plywood with a veneer on top. Then that's one type of material. Again, you've got one damaged area, they all get replaced. Solid wood flooring was my example with the Christmas tree example with the moisture meter we had on there. That was a solid wood floor, which is the same one that we showed here. Can't be refinished. The whole floor has to come out on water loss. Laminate wood flooring, which is say the lower cost material but very common, it gets even a little bit wet. It gets replaced. Vinyl flooring, which is becoming more popular, it's also they're vinyl planks. They interlock with each other. They're becoming more common than the laminate wood because it's more durable. But on the same token is that they still have the same type of remediation if they get damaged with water penetrating underneath. Resilient flooring would be like a concrete flooring or something like that that's more resilient. Doesn't mean it can't be damaged. Doesn't mean that just because it's some type of harder surface, or even tile floor, doesn't mean that there's no cost. I mean, we are trained to find damage in tile flooring too. And underlayment is what goes underneath. So if you have a laminate or a vinyl floor, they usually place some type of material underneath it as a vapor barrier to prevent moisture from coming through, because it's so susceptible to damage, especially on laminate, because it's against that compressed wood. Is they'll put like it's almost like a vinyl sheet on the bottom underneath it, so it prevents any natural moisture coming through to damage the floor from the bottom up. Damaging floor from the bottom up in general is not a covered loss by insurance, unless we know where it's coming from. If it's a water loss that got underneath it, it's fine. But if it's just, say ground, say it's on the basement level and there's moisture coming from the basement or on the slab of the slab home, that wouldn't be covered. There are also funky things that can happen underneath flooring. You're not going to see it under the laminate, but under, let's say, tile flooring, you may have baseboard heat. That has to be factored in. We have to sometimes remove those in order to replace the floor. Underlayment, such as a mortar bed underneath tiles, has to come out when you can't just pull a tile off. You got to take the whole thing out. radiant heat, which is a wonderful luxury. I don't think it can be reused. So if you've got it in a damaged tile floor and the tiles are popping off, it's something to factor in. You could add another several $1,000s more to the claim by having that material. Similar to concrete, where it can be damaged, we think it's impervious, it is not. This is the loss. I don't know if this was someone who, this was a claim here in New York. There was a roof leak. You can see the upper arrow on the left side. There was a roof leak, landed on the floor. They did not do a great job of maintaining their tile floors because there was a gap in the grout, which is the filler between the tiles. I think the next tile shows one of them, this tile was cracked. The question is, how did it happen? The way that I put it, that made sense to me, and it made sense to the insurance adjuster that I met, is that because there was missing grout between the tiles, the water from the roof leak penetrated underneath and between those tiles, and it pooled underneath. Then the homeowner stepped on it or something, or whatever it was. And when you get water underneath tiles, it can start, especially if there's underneath those tiles is some type of wood material, which as we spoke before, wood will swell when it gets wet and it'll contract. But when that happens is that, let's say the tiles are mounted to the floor with some type of adhesive could fail because it got wet. It can get soft, or if you have the wood underneath, it'll just pop off and it'll have a gap under there. The wood will swell, it'll crack the tile, and then it'll go back down. You'll be able to hear it. What they call the ring test. Not everybody wears rings, but okay, so if you're wearing a ring, you can use the ring. I prefer just use my fingertip, and I'll tap on the tiles. And you can hear the different sounds of where a tile may have popped off. And just showing that during an adjuster appointment, it's again hard for them to argue if it's sound. I tap, you've got 10 tiles and you tap on each tile and they all sound solid, but you get one, it's like a hollow sound. Something is different. Something caused a tile to fail underneath. If the tile is cracked, it's much easier to win than win the whole floor and get paid. Not always. Once a tile is cracked, it's much easier, but sometimes you can get it even if not. Again, it depends on who you're meeting in the field. This is also an example of a loss. This was a basement where they had multiple layers, multiple floors were damaged. From an upper level, there was water pouring into their basement. And this is the job after the remediation company came in. They pulled the carpets up because the carpets were damaged with, let's use the word toilet water, keep it clean. The toilet water coming down to the ceiling, through the ceiling, onto the carpet. So they pulled the carpet out. Anybody know what that material is on the floor? Comes in so many varieties and beautiful, pretty colors: brown, yellow, green.
Asbestos.
Asbestos.
You got it.
BAT.
You got it. So asbestos is a wonderful material, or at least people used to think it was a great material. Everybody loved it. It was in insulation, it was in floors, and it's durable. And it clearly was the high point of style and tradition, at least according to somebody in the 40s and 50s. And thought it was great, and it was a great material, and it was a great insulator. It is still around. It is now considered a carcinogen. So water losses to carpet. Most insurance companies, I say most because I actually lost a fight with insurance company to get this paid. Most insurance companies will pay for it if the asbestos flooring is damaged. You can turn a large claim into a very large claim because you can't just pull them off. Asbestos now has to be abated by a licensed asbestos abatement company. Those guys rarely walk in with an invoice that's less than $10,000, no matter how small the room is. And once you're starting with basement flooring, it doesn't actually in New York. I know it's common in basements. Other parts of the country might be different. Once they start tapping into the asbestos abatement for one room, same deal. As it continues from one room to the next, they usually get the entire thing pulled out. It turns into a very large loss. I think that the abatement on this particular claim was something like $25,000. Homeowner is very happy they don't have to pay it. We're very happy because we don't have to do any work, and we get to collect a fee on it. So it's even better. Homeowner doesn't even always know that they have it. They bought the house, it had carpet on the floor. All of a sudden they have a leak and go, oh, what's that? It's nothing to be really alarmed about, as long you're not going to sit there and start playing frisbee with asbestos tiles. I hope not. And if you see someone doing that, please advise them not to. But if you see something like that and you're going in as a claims rep or as an adjuster, you're going up, we should be able to get that paid for. Leave it alone. We'll bring in an expert to get their opinion. Mitigation companies, whomever your local mitigation company or preferred vendors. One of Metro's preferred vendors is CPR. You'll see them at the convention at the annual meeting. They are a licensed asbestos abatement company, as are many others. It's something that has to be done professionally. Homeowners should not be touching this. We shouldn't be touching this. It does need to be sampled. The sample is usually paid for as part of the claim. The abatement is usually paid for as part of the claim. So, knowing identifying and knowing our materials is extremely important, because this is how we show our homeowners, number one, we know what we're talking about. We're professionals, and we're going to treat them right to make sure that everything is done correctly. Okay, we're just about at the end here. So go back. Hold on a second, folks. Last time I gave this class, I offered a promotion, a special deal for people that are in this class. And I see we have 40 participants, which is very happy to have. I love you for attending, and I hope that everybody's learned something in the class. There are only a couple of licensed through Metro New York field adjusters. I am one of them. Desi Eason is one of the other ones. She's actually my trainer, and I think she's actually happy not to be coming to New York because she lives in Philly. In any case, I'm looking to grow my business just like everybody we talked about before. I can grow my business outside of Metro by clients and writing claims myself, but as a field adjuster, I have the ability to help you guys get claims approved, get them paid to the homeowner, and we make some money too. So even if you are not licensed in New York, I'm licensed in New York, New Jersey, and soon to be Illinois. If you are licensed in any state, but you have a friend in New York, you have a cousin, grandma, aunt, whatever you want to call them, or friend, or anyone, if you know someone that lives in New York and have a loss, we're trying to get some more claims before the end of the year. Refer them to your local favorite adjuster. Hopefully that's me today. I'd be happy to speak with them, speak to you. We can learn a little bit about it. If you're still a trainee, you can learn about the business. I'd be happy to coach you along on that claim. And write some claims, so that if you refer the next person that's part of this class that refers a claim to me for New York or assigns me as the adjuster, you will win a moisture meter. This is the same one you saw in my photo, so I use the same one. Anyone who's been with Metro for a couple of years, they gave these out a few years ago. I don't think they're doing that promotion anymore, but I will be happy to mail it to you from Amazon. Who doesn't sell? Everybody sells these, and since Amazon carries them, it makes it nice and easy. Free shipping and everything. The last winner was Vern, Luke, and Thomas. We've worked several claims in New York together. You can speak to her for experience and see if she thinks that I'm a half decent adjuster. I think I'm doing okay. She's based in New Jersey, so we have ways to help each other, even if you're not licensed in a specific state. It could be virtual claims, it could actually be in-person claims. We have ways to help each other out. My contact info should be popping up here. And feel free to reach out to me, email or text or call or Linktree or whatever you want. I've got John
Dan?
Jackson
Dan,
just posted. He's gonna chew me out. John Jackson is actually
before
leading
John
expert in
takes
this
up
material.
another half hour, Dan, I just want to let everybody know that the update link is in the chat room now, in case anybody wants to grab it.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm available for questions. If anybody questions, comments, or anything. John Jackson and I have actually had lengthy conversations about hazardous material and asbestos abatement, lead-based paint abatements, and all types of things like that. So if you've got questions, feel free. Go ahead. Floor is yours. We still have a little bit of time. I had to go fast because last class I gave, we got kicked out at 7:15 on the button, and I lost everyone. And then I invited him back, and we continued the class. But go ahead. Anybody have any questions? Questions, comments, concerns?
Up in New York, lead-based paint, it's a big deal. I mean, is that something that you're up against where you have to have, a special team come in to like remove the lead?
That's an interesting question. I actually haven't experienced anything in terms of how to deal with that on a loss. John Jackson, I'm sure if he's still here, he will have some feedback for you. He's based in New Jersey.
Hey, Dan.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
I'm actually, prior to my joining Metro, and I still am a licensed realtor. So in any New York transaction, when a property is sold and or rented, you have to provide a lead-based paint, an EPA, Environmental Protection Agency pre-printed document to them so that they are aware, whether there's lead-based paint or not. It's, in most cases, most homes, it's gonna be below the surface of paint. Meaning it's only in the older homes. So if your house has been repainted anytime since what, the 70s, it's for the most part, I don't think it's too much of an issue. I guess it becomes more of an issue if you're dealing with a larger loss, a fire or something like that, where they're gonna have to break open walls, and now you've got to deal with something like that. And my guess is John Jackson. I don't know if he's still here or not. John, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, but the paint is not the biggest issue. It's the lead dust, what you can't see. Most people go in their house, they'll do some remodeling, stuff like that, and they don't know that they're spreading lead dust. A small couple of beads of dust on a kid's hand, he puts it in his mouth, lead poisonous for life. So now, this year, July of this year, the EPA made it mandated. A lot of inspectors now for the cities and states have to become dust certified to do their inspection work when a contractor is working, because they're shutting down on these contractors and homeowners that are making this violation. I've got a list of entire of Jersey. I can pull one from New York if you want me to, but this is going to be a big thing. And I'm so glad you did this class and open up the eyes about this, the flooring and the other stuff, because all this work gets paid by the insurance company. And I can tell you now, Liberty Mutual is in fear for violating this law. You catch Liberty Mutual, they won't even let their IA in sometime until a test is done. This is what I love about this business. And I do the test the whole 9 yards. We get paid. I get you paid. That's why I said, you got a problem, you call me, I'll come to the desk. I wish they would try not to pay you. Please. Try.
John is a tough cookie, as you can see. Thank you for sharing that. Liberty's got their own issues. That's one of them. I haven't seen that. We do always have, again, just the off the record portion of the class until we get kicked out. Liberty, we have lots of issues with Liberty and their pricing system. And as much as their adjusters say, well, if we write the claim, and this is real world experience, I'm telling you, is something we have to be aware of, is Liberty, they say, well, our adjusters are trained to make sure that our software, and they have their own proprietary software called, it doesn't matter, I don't know what it matters, it doesn't make a difference in the name. They have the proprietary software, which they say is almost the same as Xactimate, and if their adjusters are doing their job right, the number should be close or almost close. And I will tell you, so far, every claim that I've written and adjusted with Liberty Mutual, that's not true.
They lie all day long.
All day long. And what ends up happening a lot of times, unfortunately, to the homeowners, it gets dragged out. And sometimes we have to put it to appraisal because just the valuations are off. There's also inconsistencies with them. I haven't seen them not, say that they're not walking into a claim because of that. I can tell you that most insurance companies will pay for the asbestos. I have one carrier, and I went back. It's a New York carrier, so if you're not in New York, it doesn't matter. I'll throw the name at you. It's New York Community, NYC, New York Community Mutual or something like that. And they absolutely refused to pay for an asbestos abatement on the floor that was underneath. It was a water loss. It was a hot water heater, cracked carpets, carpet on top of a vinyl floor. They agreed to the carpet. They agreed to the pad. They agreed to the vinyl floor. They agreed even to pull the tack strips, the tackless strips that are used that went through the flooring and into the asbestos, which is, that's our golden ticket when it comes to getting asbestos floors paid. The golden ticket is when you pull that carpet, the tackless strip, which gets ruined when it gets wet with the carpet, you pull it out, it pops. You now obviously when you put it through the asbestos tile, which is glued to the floor, they nail it down so that through there, when they install the carpets, however many years ago, you pull it out because it's damaged with the carpet. Asbestos tile is almost by default cracked. The abatement companies know what they're doing. The mitigation companies know what they're doing. They know how to get these claims paid. We work together to make sure they get paid. I had one claim with this company, NYCM, New York Community Mutual. They refused to pay for the asbestos abatement. They refused to pay for the asbestos testing. They paid for all the other stuff. And they had an exclusion in their policy. It said, irregardless of whatever it is and blah, 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 however they worded it, they got out of it. and I went back and forth multiple times, and it's not something that can be appraised because it's part of the scope, what's called the scope of the loss. I was kind of defeated. The saving grace for me is that the homeowner, for the initial part of the claim, they got about $5,000. They came in, they hired me. I lost the battle about the asbestos, which they had hired someone, which cost them about, I think it was $7,500. They lost that, and I was very defeated about that. But by reopening the claim, I got them another $10,000. So
Hey, Dan,
in the end, they got $10,000 more. I got paid. I lost the small battle. I lost the small battle, but I won the war.
hey,
Yes.
Dan, do me a favor. Find that documentation that they denied it on in that policy. Please send it to me.
Okay.
I promise you, I'll send you back in there and they will cut the check. You cannot violate EPA protocol without 40,000 per day per violation per man on the job, especially if it's Liberty Mutual, because that's what they got busted on out west. And they almost got crushed. You can't write something out unless they went with, in some of the policies they have, we don't pay for abandoned floors. Like if you had a floor on top of that asbestos, if they wrote that in there, they can get away with not paying for it. You see what I'm saying? Because they said in the policy, you signed and agreed to it. But other than that, it got to be done. It's federal law. Forget state and city. It's federal law.
I'll send it to you. You know, it doesn't hurt to look.
Thank you.
I closed the file up, but I'm glad to shoot it over to you if you
Oh, please.
if it's worth
We
it.
got
It's worth a look.
Yes. Definitely.
Any other questions? I see something popped up in the chat. Hard to see that at the same time.
I don't have a question, Dan, but I do have a comment. I
Uh-oh.
want to thank you for this class. It's very informative. I like how you updated the slides.
Oh,
I'm
you
impressed
noticed.
with that. I noticed that, and it was a lot more informative. And you teach a very good class, and you come across to let people understand from, like Desi says and does, a real life experience. You're not just talking about it, you're doing it. And not only do people see an opportunity of book stuff, but you give them the world on the job training, and I appreciate that. And they get a lot of work from that. Thank you much.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. And that means a lot coming from one of the big guns in the company, because I look up to you because I see the work that you do and how long you've been doing it, and all the plaques that you win and I don't. So congratulations to you, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question, I have a claim, small claim, and the insurance company asked me to bring my estimate. So I asked them to contact Metro. However, I didn't hear anything, and they sent an estimate of about $7,000 or $5,000. And now I did receive $2,000 from Metro. I don't understand what's going on. Is there any way that somebody can explain it to me? I appreciate it.
Without knowing all the details, that's difficult. It could be a supplemental. Again, I'm not sure. I would speak to the adjuster, whoever the adjuster was on the claim.
Yeah, the adjuster was there. The adjuster came, and both him from Metro and my insurance adjuster also, both of them came, and they come and inspect everything, and they said they approved that it's a claim because they have evidence of smoke and everywhere. But then I'm not under, that's why I don't understand what's really going on. And my adjuster from the Metro, he's nowhere to be. I mean, he's not reaching out to me. He's not responding my call, my text, my email. So I don't know exactly what to do and to ask.
Call claim support. You have a team at the corporate office on the claim also. Just call claim support at Metro. Okay. Or
Okay.
email claim support at metropa.com. Either way, the team needs to get back to you with any questions that you have.
Okay.
Thank you, Art. Art's been with the company a lot longer than me, and he really knows. Art actually wrote the book on Metro.
So,
I think his name is titled on the actual book somewhere there.
oh, and Dan, for the future, it's Gerald. Don't call me Jerry Jones.
So,
What you trying to say? He doesn't have the stripes to call me Jerry?
I know how they introduce you during the convention, so.
So the big story with that is that I just celebrated my 11th year excellence, December 11th, 2011. I signed my ICA, and Steve has always called me Jerry. Always
Correct, that's
called
how
me
I know it.
Right. So I'm like, look, it doesn't matter. As long as you make it right on the checks, it doesn't matter. So he messed around one time and called me Joe, and I was shocked.
There are several people in the company that go by nicknames. I believe if I recall correctly, Paul Peck's name is actually Barrett. But I think it was one of those similar stories is that they started calling him Paul, and I think maybe it's like a middle name or something like that. He's like, all right, I guess we'll go with Paul. And so Paul Peck goes by Paul Peck.
That's awesome.
It's one of those jokes that when we meet in person, he goes, you know, my actual name is Barrett. Oh, I don't know. I know you from Zoom. Chantel Riddick, I see you've got your hand up there for a bit, so go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the floor. I have an aunt, and I'm trying to convince her to get the rental insurance on this mobile home that she currently live in. She has lupus. And one thing I do know with that pestis on that floor like that, that can be causing her to get or be sicker than what she already is. And the people that own the property don't care about it. Like they don't even come to do nothing. My aunt is trying her best to do this and do this out of pocket, but she don't want to overstep the boundaries of the owner. So how can I convince her that getting rental insurance and getting that fixed through the rental insurance will help her?
It's tricky, and that's a tough situation. I'm not sure the rental insurance will help her. Rental insurance covers for the most part, covers your contents. So rental insurance is not expensive. It's, you know, in general, it's a couple $100s a year as opposed to a homeowner's policy where they own the property. Property insurance would be, well, I don't want to say numbers. Every property is a little bit different. Rental insurance really covers your content. So your stuff, the furniture, bedding. Let's say the roof leaks onto the bed and your mattress gets wet. So that rental insurance covers the bedding. It'll cover the mattress. It'll cover that. The stuff that's bolted down is part of the property owners, be it, you know, regardless of what type of property it is, but that's covered by the landlord or the owner of the property. So a claim like that, whether she had rental insurance, is a good idea because let's say you're renting from the property and let's say the landlord isn't doing a great job of maintaining the property and they have a roof leak and all of your stuff gets ruined, or the I've heard of landlords, they don't clean the drains out. You know, the drain backs up and you've got sewage water coming up through the toilet or whatever, shower backs up and you're calling the landlord, like, fix the drain. And he's like, yeah, I'll get to it. And, you know, a year goes by and lo and behold, you've got this water coming all over the place. Your stuff is now ruined. All of your property is ruined because of his negligence. So your property, the renter's insurance covers that stuff. It happens a lot where let's say a renter doesn't think about that and I'm moving in and this is my place and everything that happens here is the landlord's problem. So the answer, that's true for the structure. So if they've got, you know, the flooring gets damaged in that example of the toilet overflow, and it ruins the floor, ruins the carpet or whatever it is. So the landlord, should he decide to do the right thing and put the claim in to get it repaired, will get all of his materials repaired. It won't cover the contents of the tenant. And that happens sometimes where people think that they're living someplace and the landlord's policy will cover me, but when once a tenant is in place, the tenant is not, their property is not covered by the landlord. They have to get their own policies for their contents. So unfortunately, I don't think whether she has, she probably should have a renter's policy, but the renter's policy won't help the building materials. If you know there's some type of, some type of flaw in the property, as uncomfortable as it is, and I don't know her situation, it might be a good idea to look around for another place.
That's the thing. It's
hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. And the person that owned the property is kin to us.
Mhm.
I mean, so what I'm trying to say is, how can I get to the owner to let the owner know what's good and what's going on? Because like, I'm not the person to keep going outside and digging in the sewage to try to unstop drains and stuff. My aunt is living in a world of trouble. Like, and I want her to get better, but she's not going to get better living in that environment. And my cousin is just stubborn, if you know what I mean. And I know having this policy, that I know she got insurance on the mobile home, but for her to even sit down and take a second with me just to listen and to understand what I have to tell her is going to be hard. Do you have like reference pages or something that you can send me that she can read or see, instead of just me verbally telling her?
I'm looking for a baseball bat, but I don't have one here. But that
David,
might
I
be your
can-
only bet. It's how are you going to
I
convince
can-
someone?
Hey,
You
Chantel,
just got to beat him over the head. Like, how are you supposed to convince her that she's got coverage?
Chantel, can I ask you a question, please?
Deal with
Sure,
So,
sure.
okay, who's your upline?
Wayne Brown.
Okay, so maybe you need to let Wayne Brown talk to your cousin, and your cousin can hear another voice, especially somebody that maybe that might have a little bit more authority than just cousin Chantel that they grew up with.
Right. Okay.
That's all you got to do. Start there. That's what they got you in the business for. That's their job, to assist you with that. If Wayne can't do it, Wayne has an upline. It will go up the chain, and I promise you, somebody in that chain will help and assist you, because it's their job and they benefit from that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
If
they
you
will
can-
help you. They will
If
help
not,
you.
if not, go back to
You
the
gotta
baseball
go to
bat.
your upline. He's right.
Yeah, tell him to
And
take
if
a
they don't
baseball bat
help
with
you-
him.
Chantel, part of the idea of that whole PCR, the policy coverage review, that's kind of like, getting the door open. But sometimes if it's just too close to the heart, they don't want to hear from you. You're a cousin, but that's
Right.
it's Gerald. That was a good suggestion. Even sometimes sending just trying to have a little conversation. Maybe I say over Thanksgiving, over Christmas or whatever. If you're getting together, listen, I don't want to bother you, but can I just send you like a short email just to tell you what it is that I do? Maybe I can help. It's hard to stick in their brain that you can, or I will help you. But if you put like that maybe in their head, and they have to come to that solution on their own and say, well, maybe you can help me. So they got to think about that themselves. You kind of empower people like that also. I find that some of those tools that you have in those short video, Metro put out an animated introduction video. It's like 2 minutes or something like that. If you can just see if they'll be willing to listen, just watch a 2 minute dumb video. Could you watch this 2 minute dumb video? Maybe it'll give you an idea of what it is that I do, because not everybody knows what I do.
Okay.
It's short. It really is. It's animated. Say, hey, who represents the homeowner when they have damage to their property? If you can turn that little light bulb on, and then if they say, okay, could you tell me more about that? Then you may want to stick your upline in there also, if they don't feel comfortable talking to you. That might work.
Okay.
I've got a 5-minute
Okay.
warning from something that we're getting kicked out in 5 minutes.
I'll try. I'll do my best.
So we got to do. We have to put in our best effort. That's what I find in life too, and everything.
And I apologize. I thought my camera was on all that time.
That's how I knew. I can only recognize you by your voice, and I was like, that sounds like Gerald. That's why I said it, because I wasn't sure your face didn't pop up, but I recognize you enough. I'm pretty good with
I didn't
voices.
realize it was off. I didn't know I had my flowers up there. Sorry.
We only have the option on the host option. We have that we can mute you, but we can't turn your video on for you. That would be kind of a weird violation. I see Lily Williams, your hand is still up. I don't know if that's from before or that's a new question.
Yes, I have a question. My question is, I'm in Maryland, and in July, there's a storm that we had down here. In my neighborhood, I see many houses or a couple of houses that some, the siding has been like, some have been missing or blowing off, some the roofing. And my thing is, how do I approach them and what do I need to say or what should I say?
Those are almost all covered lawsuits, so those should get paid. The question, how do you approach them? It's
Yes.
tricky. That's part of, like, learning the business and speaking to the people who are great at sales. I'm not so great at sales. As you see, I told her to hit the guy with the bat. That's not gonna work. It's a good joke, but at the end of the day, it's about salesmanship and proving what works. And I've tried lots of different options. If I see a home that has roofing damage, obviously we can only identify damage to home that we can see from the outside. I take my dog for a walk and I stare at everybody's house. I tell people I'm the town, hey, I'm the town weirdo. I just walk around staring at people's houses. And I noticed, you're not saying, oh, your house. If you say your house looks like hell, they're not going to call you. But if you say, I happen to notice that your roof, and you almost sound dumb when you say it, but you know what you're talking about. I happen to notice that you have damage on your roof, probably maybe from wind. I've helped other people in the neighborhood get that paid through insurance. So would you be interested in something like that? It sounds like a great sales pitch, but we don't want to sound like salespeople because we're not really salespeople. And sometimes it works, and most of the times it doesn't. But everybody's got their own experience. And I knocked on my neighbor's door, a couple months ago. I was walking my dog, and I happened to see her outside. I said, hey, you know that you have damage on your roof? And she hired me, and I got her a new roof, and she ended with like a $20,000 settlement. She's like, you're a godsend. I don't know why you did that. And she wrote me this great review online, and I felt like a hero. But they're not all like that. Sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. So out of every, 10 people that I put in a mailing in, I actually have, I've set envelopes here set to go, and it did the creepy things. And I actually got somebody saw me doing it. As I started going around, I started taking pictures of people's houses from the street, so I'm not trespassing. Obviously, they're not great pictures, but I identify these homes, and I find knocking on the door, people don't like that. I made door hangers, and I was putting them on doors. I didn't get any calls from that. I'm trying something different. Now I'm trying like a handwritten letter. I identify the house, I get the address, I take a picture of their house, and then I stick in a flyer with my business card. And I'm still working on finalizing it. A little thing, maybe if I mail it, they'll call me. It's part of learning this business, and there's always ways to try, and you have to be creative. And I see some things work and some things don't. So it's also it's a numbers game. So if you knock on 10 doors and you get one to hire you, okay, great. And if that person is happy, they tell another person, or they write you an online review. It goes a long way.
All right, thank you.
I don't have a great answer for you, but I'm sharing what has and has not worked for me.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank
I
you.
think we've got a minute left before we get kicked out.
I was going to suggest that she again use her trainer and whoever is over her group. Or tomorrow, Jay Gillette, he will be giving training, and he knows quite a bit. I learn something from him all the time. He will give you multiple ideas on how to approach that person, because he helped me approach my church. So I think he might be able to help you as well. But as the other gentleman said, you got to use your upline.
Mm-hmm. And experience, just hearing
And
different
they'll do it
versions of
for you.
what people try.
They will be there with you. They'll be on the call with you. You're not alone with Metro. You're not alone. At least I haven't been. That's been my experience for the last few months. I've been an affiliate. So yeah, use your upline.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's
And
call
get
it
on the
because we're going to get
training
kicked out
tomorrow.
anyway.
Let's
Thank you very much for
on the
attending.
training.
I will be giving another class January 10th, Tuesday, January 10th. I don't have a topic yet. I hope to see you there or not, and feel free to
Thank
reach
you
out by
so
email.
much,
Text.
Dan.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dan.
everybody.
so
Thank you for
much.
attending.
That was
Have a good night.
excellent. Excellent.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Dan.
Good night.
All right, great job, Dan.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Thank you.